Ready. Okay. I listened to the Chainheart Machine for the first time in 2000 about. A friend of mine gave me the original album and I copied it
Right?
on a cassette.
Oh my God, you have the cassette still? That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
this is the original one, okay, of the 2000s. But now I get also in the original CD.
Yeah.
So it's all okay.
Cool. That's the actual original CD, because I believe we did a re-release with a little slightly different cover, I guess.
Oh, okay. This is the original one.
Yes.
The first copy. Yeah. Okay. I began with the first question. What do you remember about the period that you and Soilwork recorded the Chainheart Machine, and what do you remember about the world of 20 years ago?
Wow. I'm trying to think back. I mean, we finished up. We did the Steel Bath Suicide, which was our debut album, and we signed with Listenable Records, and we didn't do much. We actually did our first European tour for that one with Christian through Europe in like a camper, it was very interesting. And then I think after that we were so eager, we were so excited, after putting out Steel Bath Suicide and to do something new, because it was so much fun, like, recording an album at Studio Fredman, which was like the dream studio, and coming to Gothenburg and working with Fredman and all that stuff. And then we could not wait to write a new album, and what I remember is that I think we booked a little bit longer in the studio, and then as far as the composing of the actual album, I think we developed a lot just, during a year, after releasing Steel Bath Suicide, because I think when you compare Chainheart Machine and Steel Bath Suicide, I think they're pretty different. I would say that Chainheart Machine is way more technical.
Yeah.
So I think we develop as musicians very, very quickly right there, and I think at that time also, I think Devin Townsend inspired a lot, with especially with the City album with Strapping Young Lad, and that was something that we got very inspired by, and mixing sort of like very technical thrash with like sort of a Gothenburg sound, but all
industrial also.
Huh? Industrial, yeah.
Some industrial also.
Yeah, a little bit of that feeling, and like it's hard to, it's like open chords, very atmospheric chords, and passages in the music, and also sometimes choruses, and so it was a bit more atmospheric than Steel Bath Suicide. So I think we really wanted to do something different. I think we had that already from the start, even though it was a big Gothenburg scene. We were not from Gothenburg, we were from Helsingborg, which is 3 hours south, and there was not that much of a metal scene down there. So I think we were inspired by the Gothenburg scene, but already back then we wanted to create something that was different from that, And yeah, and I mean, even it became pretty. Chainheart Machine was thrashing, but also slightly sort of symphonic in an Yngwie Malmsteen way, and it was solo-wise, So it was a very interesting mix of different things, and I think. I don't think we realized that we were about to put out something fairly unique at the time, To us, it was just like, this is what we like, and this is what we envision, and we recorded it again as Fredman and booked longer time. And I believe that was the last album being recorded in the original location of Fredman Studios.
Okay. And how many days did you record?
I think the first album was 2 weeks, and I think now we had like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I can't remember exactly. I just know that it was longer because we felt sort of stressed on the first album.
Yeah.
So this time we were really serious, and we also wanted to take down sort of the distortion on the guitars a little bit to get the riffing through, because sometimes when you have too much distortion on the guitars, it's hard to hear the riffing. So we wanted to take it down and have more of an organic sound. And I think, I don't know, I think we had something special already back then, something unique. At least it's somewhat of a unique expression, you know. And so I think that album was very much of an experiment as well. If the first album was very much like everything thrown into one, like, oh, this is amazing, oh, and yes, and heavy metal riff there, and thrash there, and death here, and like, wow, this is cool. I think the second album became a little bit more focused, and we started to analyze a little bit more. And there are pros and cons to that as well, I think. But I remember as well, as far as the vocals go, that I became more confident as well. And I think it happens very quickly when you, even if it's just one tour, you know, that we did for Steel Blast Suicide. I think I grew as a singer just from singing every day and being on stage. Something happens, you know, within you. And I think it's mostly mentally. You get sort of a confirmation that, wow, I can be on a stage even and do that, you know.
It's more automatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we had a lot of confidence, and we were very, very excited to put out something that stood out, you know, but at the same time also sounded in some ways typically late 90s, you know. And,
all right.
And it's 20 years ago. It's insane.
And Bjorn, do you remember something else about the world that you were living in that period? You were 22 years old.
Yeah, let me think here. No, I was actually, yes, I was. Sorry. Yes, I was 22 years old.
22? Only 22?
Yeah.
Really?
I remember around the time I was living in Helsingborg, and I actually got my first apartment in 99.
Oh.
I moved away from home in 99, so I started hanging out a lot more in Helsingborg, and I was old enough to go to the bars and nightclubs. So a lot of partying, hanging out with fellow musicians, and at the time as well, I also did a recording with no, that was earlier. I was thinking about Darkane. I actually did 2 songs with them before they got signed, but that was in 97. So
okay.
But the world back then, I mean, it was, you know, the millennium, and yeah, I remember we were hanging out a lot and listening to a lot of music together. It was, remember the drummer at the time, Henry Ranta, and Olaf Link, the bass player, they were sharing an apartment in downtown Helsingborg, and we were always hanging out there listening to music, and yeah, it was really exciting times. And I remember sitting there in that apartment at the Millennium,
yeah,
when Europe reunited for the New Year's Eve show for the first time, and play outdoor in like minus degrees. So I remember watching that, and they played at midnight, you know, so. And okay. Then I found, yeah, it's crazy. It was a crazy party, but as far as the world goes, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't think I've thought that much about the world or registered what was going on. I was just so excited about the music, you know, and so.
The music was a really big part of your world, also at the time.
Yeah, because I was living in a bubble a little bit, you know, yeah. and it's almost like I didn't register what happened around me. You know, it was very easy, everything. And nowadays, I'm very sort of, I see everything. I register just about everything. And there's, you know, sometimes that can be tough, I think. But I think it's also something that comes with age, when you realize, you know, sort of, you start thinking in existential questions and all of that stuff. I never thought about anything.
Okay, I can understand.
Time.
Yeah. You are the only original Soilwork members now. Do you kept in touch with the musicians that recorded that Chainheart Machine, and how is the feeling with them?
I am in touch with Peter.
Yeah?
And,
Peter Richards.
Yes. So that's all good. No weirdness at all. I haven't spoken to Henry in a long time. Olaf Link sort of disappeared. I messaged him a couple of times, but he didn't respond. And we were never, ever fighting, and we connected very well. So I don't think there's any drama around it. I think maybe he just wanted to start a new life and leave certain things behind. And
okay,
I miss him.
Yeah, but it's strange, this kind of way of life for me. Also, I have some friends that sounds with me at the time, and now.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, and I'm sort of a sensitive person who think too much, and you start thinking like, oh, did I do something wrong? But I don't think so, because we always connected, and he was always straight up, and said, there was something wrong. So I don't think that's the case. I don't know. He just wanted to, what, I did this 20 years. I'm just going to quit now. And then he's a jail guard.
Ah, a jail guard. Okay.
Yeah. So he just, I'm going to stop doing music and I'm going to continue doing that. I need some routines in my life. So I think he just switched like that and made up his mind. And I can also admire that in a way, because it's not easy. Because I mean, there are definitely times when you wake up in a tour bus somewhere, out of middle of nowhere, and just thinking, why am I doing this? Of course it happens. It's special way of life, and I think with age, I think routines and stuff like that becomes more important. And it's kind of hard to have a routine doing this life where you come home for a month and then you go again, after you have your sort of routines set up at home, trying to live a normal life. Cut again, so it's like back and forth all the time. So it's very understandable. So I hope he's doing good, and I'm sure I will hear from him at some point. So.
But I think that this is the real difference between to be an artist and to make the artist, because if you need to change your life and to have some more sure things to do, more sure work, yes, as you said, is more difficult to continue on a way without sure things.
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty, and it's not very, how can I say, it's not very
comfortable.
No, there's not a lot of stability, financially as well. And then when you start getting serious, the relationship, maybe get married, and then maybe you start talking about kids and all these things, and it's a tough jigsaw puzzle,
More flat life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the main differences about songs creation for Soilwork of the last period and the old Soilwork for you?
I think some of the elements I think we brought back. I feel that our latest 3 albums connect more to the 3 first albums than maybe sort of the middle period where we were actually the biggest, when we released Finger Number 5, Stabbing the Drama, and Sworn to Great Divide. Those were I think, our biggest albums, especially Stabbing the Drama, and at that time, I'm still proud of those albums, but I think for me, it's not really what I wanted to do with Soilwork. I enjoyed it while it happened, but looking back, it's not really what I envisioned when I started the band. So therefore, I think the latest 3 albums is closer to the musical expression and the emotional connection
with you.
Yeah, and I think that sort of becomes full circle for me, and because it's sort of, it goes on the same terms as when we started the band. Certain elements that needed to be there, like the melancholic stuff, and it's not very poppy choruses anymore. And there's nothing wrong with pop. It's just like sometimes I felt like we got a little bit lost, where I don't know, you couldn't feel the there was it's hard to explain. like those 3 albums, Figure Number 5 and Stabbing the Drama, Sworn to Great Divide, it was they didn't sound focused in the same way. It was very catchy, catchy and groovy and all these things. But to me, Soilwork has never, in my mind, Soilwork is not really connected to sort of like bouncy riffs, if you know what I mean. Sort of like it sounded pretty Americanized at the time. It was an interesting time because we were not alone being influenced by the American scene, because a lot of the Swedish metal bands, melodic death metal bands, started to tour in America.
Yeah,
with a lot of metalcore bands. And what was funny at the time was that all the sort of metalcore bands were strongly influenced from this old melodic death metal from Sweden, and at the same time the Swedish bands got really influenced by the groovier parts from the metalcore bands. So it was like an exchange, you know. So we sort of traded places in a way.
Yeah. Okay. I understood. Do you remember the last time you listened to the Chainheart Machine, and what do you think about it now?
Well, I haven't listened to it in a long time. Maybe I should. It would be sort of a nice revisit, you know. And the latest thing that had to do with the Chainheart Machine was when Netflix got in touch with me about the series The OA.
Okay.
And they wanted to use a song from Chainheart Machine called Possessing the Angels.
Wow. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And that was 3 years ago. And
okay.
I was thinking, like, why that song? You know, like these other like new albums, you know, what's wrong with them? You know, it was like, why that song? I was still living at my parents'. I remember clearly.
I think that that song is one of the most trashy ones from that album.
Yes, I agree. And I was very excited. I remember when I wrote that song at my parents'. I was still living with them, and in this small little village. And then years later, Netflix get in touch with me and want that song for the soundtrack, not the new stuff, not the current stuff that I'm doing now. It's like back then. So I wondered how they, out of all tracks, it must have been a fan or something that was connected to it.
Yeah.
Because he liked the old school Soilwork, you know, and probably picked that song, you know. And I've watched the episode. I believe it's the second episode in season 2. I might be wrong. Where you can barely hear the song, but it's in like this crazy scene where somebody's running down a spiral stairs and just screaming bloody murder, you know, and that you can hear it a little bit in the background. It's like just a part against the middle, you know, breakdown where I do like the oh.
Wow, it's a must-see episode.
Yeah, it was pretty surreal, you know, and that gave you a little bit of perspective on things as well. You know, it's pretty crazy. Okay. That album means a lot to a lot of people, you know, and also, you know, like we talked about America before, you know, that album was very, very influential for a lot of American bands. And also when Natural Born Chaos came out, it also became sort of the next step of sort of inspiring the American metal scene, which is great. And then later we got inspired from the American metal scene as well. So it's interesting. And we did Ozfest in 2005 and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think that also A Predator's Portrait is an important piece of your discography, especially if you see the 2 albums before, the Chainheart Machine and Stillbirth Suicide. The increase, the growth is really clear for me to see, because the aggression and the melody began one thing together, you know. It seems so listening them. But returning to the Chainheart, what is your favorite song, your favorite lyric of that
Sorry, I need to cheat and look at the list here.
Yeah, no problem. My favorite one is Machine Gun Majesty.
Yeah.
But because I really love thrash, and so for me the aggression is really important, you know.
Yeah.
The good aggression, because it isn't the same to listen a good song melodic and a bad song aggressive.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my favorite would probably be Million Flame.
Okay, the third.
Yeah, lyrically, I mean, I can't remember exactly what I'm singing because we haven't done that song, but I feel it directly when I saw the name.
Yeah,
I realized it's like, yes, I used to connect to that song, you know.
Yes.
And maybe I would still if I listened to it, but I haven't listened to it in a very long time, so I should.
Okay. And the last question about the Chainheart Machine, after we have, I have some other one. Do you remember how was the Chainheart Machine tour? The tour after you said me before at the beginning of the interview about did you remember something else of the tour that you can speak about?
Yes, I do. For the Chainheart Machine, we did not do a full European tour that we did on Steel by Suicide, strangely enough. But we started to do a lot more sort of weekend shows in Europe, and especially in Benelux countries. You know, we did a lot of stuff in Holland, Belgium, in the weekends, and we did a couple of times with Darkane. And we also did this crazy long weekend with it was such a weird fit, you know, for Soilwork. It was Angel Corpse,
Wow,
Defleshed, sorry,
no problem.
Marduk,
Oh.
and Cannibal Corpse.
Wow, so brutal.
Yeah, and then Soilwork. I mean, I remember the crowd did not like it. Go home. It was like,
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody isn't so well, you know. They want the brutal one, the brutal thing.
yeah, they're very like metal purists, and Soilwork was way too much melodic.
True metallers.
Yes, true. So yeah, that was an interesting time, and actually, I forgot to tell you before. Even before the Chainheart Machine, I think like 1 month before the album was released, we went to Japan for the first time.
Oh wow! And how it was Japan for the first time?
I didn't travel much as a kid or as a teenager. I only flew once from the south of Sweden to Stockholm. That was the only time I've been flying. So the second time I'm flying from Copenhagen to Paris, Charles de Gaulle, and then Charles de Gaulle to Tokyo. And back then they were smoking on the Air France flights in '99.
Oh, really strange to think now.
Yeah, insane. It's like, wow, that actually happened in my lifetime. You know, it's so it was the coolest thing that ever happened in my life at the time. You know, just that vibe. It's like, we're going to Japan. You know, and telling your parents, like, that's when they realized, oh, maybe this is pretty serious after all. You know, it's like, we made it. You know.
Wow.
So we went to Japan, and it was it was just amazing. You know, because we came from traveling in a camper through Europe and playing with Cannibal Corpse and Marduk, and everybody hated us. And then coming to Japan, you got treated like you were Ozzy Osbourne, you know. We just everything was super surreal, and
a big difference.
Yeah, and I mean that was the start. And then after that, we went for every album to Japan. You know, I've been there I mean, with the band, probably 10 times, if not more.
10 times.
So a special relationship with the band already from the beginning. That's where it started, you know, and sort of that's when it became serious, and I realized that, wow, this life is taking off, you know. So it was very a dreamy time, and surreal and exciting. So
A dream that come true.
yeah.
Okay. I